roll call has been taken. And we have a quorum. So hopefully everybody received the packet ahead of the meeting this month. And if you've had a chance to review it, I look for a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Sebastian, second by Brad. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Second item, approval of minutes from last month.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple of corrections that I caught, or that were caught with the minutes. I did correct them in your packet, but just want to point them out. The first one on page 2, this was for the Wholesome hearing, recommended minimum conditions, and I have it up on the screen here, but where it says IUP, that was in the minutes was CUP. And then that also got translated to condition number 6. Yep. So it said CUP there. So that would be my recommended to change that to IUP.
Look for a motion to amend the minutes from last month, changing the CUP to an IUP regarding the Olson hearing.
Make that motion.
Motion by Josh,
Second.
second by Kurt. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Is there anyone in the audience or online that wishes to speak on something that is not on the agenda? Is there anyone in the audience or online that wishes to speak on something that is not on the agenda? One more time. Is there anyone in the audience or online that wishes to speak to something that is not on the agenda? Hearing none, we will move to the first public hearing. Jacob Edwards, request for interim use, home occupation permit. This is an after-the-fact ask. Take it away, Matt. Oh, look for a motion to approve the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Brad, second by Sebastian. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is a request for an interim use permit home occupation for a tree service business. The property is just south of Holly on State Aid Highway 31. It's zoned agricultural general. A IUP home occupation is permitted in the Ag General Zoning District if it meets the standards and is granted an interim use permit. So there's a residence and a number of outbuildings on the property. Most of the business activity would take place in the northwest corner of the property. So that the request is to continue operating a tree service business on the property. I don't know if you've driven down Highway 10 before, but by the airport, that's where this business used to be located. They use about 4,300 square feet, 2 outbuildings for the business, mainly used for vehicle and equipment parking and just for maintenance. There are 3 additional employees at the business other than the owner. There is employee parking on site. No customers visit the property, and they typically operate from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. 11 months of the year. The applicant does appear to meet all the standards for an interim use home occupation. The nearest residential property is about 1,000 feet to the northeast, and it's buffered too by trees and buildings as well. It looks like this would meet all of the goals and objectives relevant to this request for the comprehensive plan. Any questions for me at all? Can go back to the.
Okay, no. Does anybody on the board have any questions for Matt?
Just, I do, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Paul.
Just a general question. Did something change that there, this wasn't done before? What created this situation?
Oh, the business used to be located off of Highway 10. It was zoned highway commercial, which you don't need a interim use or a conditional use permit for this type of business. But when you move it to a home-based business, then that, yep, triggers the need for that.
So not really knowing?
Yep, yep.
Thank you.
We probably see a handful of these every year, so pretty common.
Right.
No. Would the applicant care to speak to his permit? If so, come up to the mic and make sure that the light is green and state your name for the record.
Thank you. My name is Jake Edwards. I guess Matt pretty much covered everything fact-wise about how we run the business. We're sure to keep the property clean. It doesn't look any different than how it did when we first moved in. And we don't plan on storing any big equipment or anything outside to make it kind of an eyesore or anything like that.
Well, I appreciate you coming forward in your business. You're local resident and you're providing a needed service. It's a good thing, and there's a lot of ash trees out there.
Yes, there is. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have.
Does anybody else have any questions for the applicant? Comments? Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
Do I need to announce to the audience? Okay. Okay. If nobody has any other questions or comments for Matt or the applicant, I would look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Brad, seconded by Sebastian. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay. We have the findings of fact. In granting an interim use, the planning commission shall consider the effect of the proposed use upon the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of occupants of surrounding lands, existing and anticipated land uses, traffic conditions, including parking facilities on adjacent streets and land, and the effect on agricultural usage and values of property and scenic views in the surrounding areas, and the effect of the proposed use on existing comprehensive plans. Use and enjoyment of other property. The interim use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted, and not substantially diminish or impair property values within the immediate vicinity. Development of surrounding property. The establishment of the interim use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. Utilities, access roads, drainage, off-street parking, and loading spaces. Adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide utilities, access roads, drainage, and off-street parking and loading spaces. Nuisance conditions. Adequate measures have been or will be taken to prevent or control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, water pollution, soil erosion, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance, and to control lighted signs or other signs in such a manner that no disturbance to neighboring properties will result. Burden on public services. The use will not create an excessive burden on parks, schools, streets, water supply, sanitary sewers, storm sewers, and other public facilities or utilities which serve or are proposed to serve the area. Compatibility. The use will be sufficiently compatible or separated by distance or screening from adjacent agriculturally zoned or used land so that existing homes will not be depreciated in value and there will be no deterrence to agricultural use of said land. Appearance of structure and site. The structure and site shall have an appearance which will not have an adverse effect on adjacent residential properties. Relationship to overall needs. The use is, in the opinion of the Planning Commission, reasonably related to the overall needs of the district and to the existing land use. In the case of floodplain areas, the proof that the location is necessary for facility operation and that alternative sites are not susceptible to flooding are not available. Consistency with ordinance. The use is consistent with the purposes of this ordinance and the purposes of the zoning district in which the applicant intends to locate the proposed use. Conflict with existing plans, or with comprehensive plans. The use is not in conflict with the comprehensive plan, if any, of the township, city, or county. Traffic hazards and congestion in floodplain areas. The use will not cause traffic hazards or congestion in floodplain areas as access during flooding for ordinary and emergency vehicles. Existing businesses. Existing businesses nearby will not be adversely affected because of curtailment of customer trade brought about by intrusion of noise, glare, or general unsightliness. Matt, you have some,
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just proposed 3 conditions that are pretty standard for this type of running of a home occupation as service type business. Complying with our home occupation standards, permit ceasing upon property ownership change in employees, limited to members of the House and 10 additional non-family employees, unless a plan for additional employee parking mitigation of potential impacts are provided to the planning office. So very, almost exact same as the conditions that were put in place on the permit that was approved in March. Same type, similar type of home occupation.
how about signage? Is he allowed? Or, and then if he is allowed, restricted to the 4x8?
Yep, that would, yep.
Go ahead, Paul.
I have a question, Matt. Tell me why the the limitation of 10 non-family employees. Why that number?
I think that's one that has just been used in the past for similar types of businesses. And so there really isn't like a standard in place, but it's more of like a just a past permit condition that's been put on
That's
similar types of
something,
businesses.
That should be amended if his business grows and he ends up with 3 crews and there's 4 people on each crew.
Yep, you would just need to submit like a plan for additional employee parking essentially to our office. And then that could be increased.
Can I ask the question to the applicant on that
Go ahead.
number?
Mhm.
Is that okay? Is it, just curious, is 10 going to be a limitation you see in the future?
I'm
And
sorry, say again, sir.
Part of a condition coming up here is a potential of limiting 10 non-family members in this occupation. I guess I'm asking, might that number be a limiting number as you're looking the growth of your business?
As of our current plan, that would not be a limiting factor. I think we want to keep it around, max would be 8 to maybe 10 employees total.
Okay. I just don't want that to become problematic for you
Absolutely.
within a year or some shorter term.
Yes. Yeah, I think if we did grow to the point where we needed to get an amendment on that, it would be many years down the road yet.
Thank you for that.
Okay, anybody? Go ahead, Mr. Steichen.
Mr. Chair and Matt, is the applicant agreeable to the conditions set forth.
That's what you'd have to ask the applicant, Mr. Chair, if they're
It's
agreeable.
important, if it's an IUP or CUP, I know last
IUP,
meeting
yep.
we said you don't need for the CUP, but that's not exactly how it is. You're supposed to ask for both IUP and CUPs, that the applicant is agreeable, even though you probably haven't for a CUP in the past. But the whole thing is, if they're agreeable, it's more difficult for them in the future to come with a claim that says that's not what they wanted, that's not what they agreed to, but they're on record of agreeing to whatever it is we're setting forth in conditions from here on out. I'd learned that at the Wadena or Staples, so.
Oh, nice.
If I only learned one thing, it could save the county a huge court action. Not that it probably would, this is pretty simple here, but it's important to make sure so is the applicant agreeable to the conditions set forth?
Yes, I am.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
Anybody else have any further comments or questions? Thank you for affirming. Hearing none, look for a motion to approve or disapprove.
Strike and approve.
Motion by Dave to approve,
Second.
second by Kurt. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. IUP is granted. With no further conditions. Okay. Now we are on to the major part of the packet. Environmental impact statement. Hopefully everybody has had a chance to at least skim the information. There's a lot of it in there. It's a lot of nice not being able to sleep reading that maybe puts you to sleep. There was, except for the DNR, and it was more of a generic response than any specific response. There was no public outcry, or, I mean, there was just kind of a non-issue. Care to explain what we need and really don't need to do?
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Chair. So I can kind of go through and walk through. In the past, we've, the past couple of years, we've had a couple of these environmental assessment worksheets. And the two that we've had have received a lot of comments on them. Enough comments to warrant having a public hearing for. This one, we only received one comment letter for. You don't have to do a public hearing for this type of environmental review. There is a process that's laid out. And so with that, just without, not a whole lot of public comment, just thought we would go this route. But I can, just because it is a big document, walk through it. So essentially, the purpose of this is to evaluate if this project, which is the Asplin Eckery Pit expansion, if there isn't a need for an environmental impact statement. And so that's what the environmental assessment worksheet does. It's kind of a short, kind of scoping document almost to decide if it is needed. For non-metallic mineral mining, which gravel mining falls under in Minnesota Rules 4410, the county is what's called the responsible government unit. So the county is responsible for determining if an environmental impact statement is needed or if the environmental assessment worksheet is adequate. And so for this, they're looking to expand an existing gravel pit about almost, or just under doubling the size of the pit to 104 acres. The goal is to continue just the mining, storage, and distribution of sand, rock, and gravel products to market. This expansion would extend the 20-year life of the pit an additional 10 to 20 construction seasons. Located right across the street from the landfill on County Road 23, Cassaw 23. You can see there's there's 2 other gravel pits in the area as well. And this whole area has kind of had a history of gravel mining all the way up to the river, basically. It's zoned agricultural general. This use is allowed with an interim use permit. There is a lot of uses currently on the property. It's used for agriculture, it's residential, and then also the gravel mining on the property as well. And I just wanted to, this is kind of hard to see, but we do have goals and objectives related to aggregate resources in our comprehensive plan. One being to recognize the importance of these resources to Clay County and the region, and to protect from encroachment of incompatible residential, commercial, and industrial development, and to ensure the sound stewardship of aggregate resources and our biotic resources, because a lot of times those 2 resources occur, they coexist, essentially. To foster a balanced approach to aggregate resource extraction that is compatible with the natural resources and rural character of Clay County, and then a number of objectives under that goal as well. So just some permit property history. So in 1991, Coast Brothers Inc. got a conditional use permit for a 20-acre mine. In 2003, the mine was taken over by Asplin. And then just a couple of years ago, they did get a variance to the 500-foot residential setback. That residence was is the property owner's residence, essentially. And so I'm just going to touch briefly. I know the EAW is a large document. It was developed by SRF Consulting. They're the consulting firm that developed the document. And how that works is they develop the document, and then as the RGU, I review it, the county engineer reviews it, county attorney reviews it. We make sure we're good with it, and before presenting it to you all, essentially. Because ultimately, it is the county's environmental assessment worksheet. So the plan is to just continue a kind of a phased expansion process. So starting in the northwest corner and moving clockwise, basically mining the exact same way that this property has been mined since 1991, just removing topsoil aggregate above the water table. They'll deposit unusable material within the project area. They're not proposing any new buildings or structures at all. Would be reclaimed per landowner specifications. They have reclamation ongoing in the southwest corner, and they're going to follow the mining operations in the same kind of clockwise pattern. So they have a large phase open right now, and then they have some that's reclaimed, some that's currently under reclamation, and then this kind of mustard color is what they're planning on opening up into the future. That's the expansion, essentially. And then the reclamation would follow kind of that same approach, where they've got phase 1, 100% reclaimed. Phase 2, they say, got about 60% reclaimed, and then phase 3 and 4. Phase 3 is what they're in right now, essentially. For permits, they do have a permit from the Pollution Control Agency. They did get Natural Heritage Inventory concurrence from the DNR. They may need a groundwater, or they may need a water appropriations permit. That's something that I'm working with the DNR and the project proposer Asplin on determining. They don't withdraw any groundwater, but they do use it in like a closed loop system from their stormwater basins, but that still could require a water appropriation permit. And then they would need to get an interim use permit from Clay County, and then an interim use permit from Holly Township as well. So I kind of jumped ahead of myself a little bit with water resources. Really not too much within the project area or within a mile of the project area. There is some significant water resources, but they're buffered quite a ways. As with all of our mines that are permitted or about to be permitted, it'd be important for our County Wetlands Conservation Act coordinator, who's with the SWCD, to do a consultation and review of this project. That would be probably part of any permit. It's a typical permit condition, essentially. Groundwater is scattered anywhere from 2 to 52 feet below grade. I think the groundwater there's some that's exposed, so it really depends on how much they've already excavated, but there is a lot of variation there. They're not planning on discharging to any surface waters or public treatment facilities. They would have their industrial wastewater, which is essentially their what they're washing the material with. That's under a permit. They are conducting all of their mining operations above the water table, so when they hit water, they basically stop mining, essentially, in that location. And so this really colorful map kind of shows you generally the topography of the area, as well as the direction of the general direction of the stormwater flow. And so that would be any rain runoff and things like that. And the important takeaway here is all the blue arrows are pointed inwards at the property. So the lowest that's generally flowing to the middle or the center of the property. There are some protected areas that are nearby. We have Buffalo River State Park is 2 miles east. Blue Stem Prairie, just to the south of Buffalo River State Park, is also nearby. There is one site of moderate biodiversity significance within the project area, and then there's just several native plant communities present as well. You can kind of see them on this map. So essentially this kind of ridge right here that goes from the west and then moves southeast is essentially an area of high or moderate biodiversity significance, essentially just a lot of native plant communities along the beach ridge there. With this proposed project, though, it's all within cropped land, so it's all farmland. So in that sense, it avoids natural features. So no direct environmental impacts would be expected. Some potential indirect impacts could be surface runoff, increased dust. The surface runoff would be mitigated through that stormwater going towards the center of the property, and then increased dust, maybe fugitive dust within the pit itself, but they access a paved county road, so no dust really from transportation of the materials at all. The biggest thing probably for this pit would be just the potential spread of invasive species, which is common. Could be, gravel pits, especially ones that are unreclaimed, are harbingers or they harbor a lot of invasive species or have the potential to. So they do have some plans in terms of monitoring and then for reclamation as well. Sure. They would have to be 100 feet from all the property lines, and they're a bit of a distance away from some of those native plant communities already. Yep. But the wind does blow very hard out here, so yeah, seeds can travel. In terms of air, noise, and odor and visual impacts, it's already located in an area that's used for mining. Visual impacts just include the general impacts would be associated with mining activities. A lot of that, though, is occurring below grade. And they do have it bermed. And then just based off of the current landscape, they're not really anticipating any degradation of anyone's views. There's not going to be a batch plant at all. There really wouldn't be any increase in air quality or emissions, essentially because even though they're expanding the operation, it's not growing. They're using the same equipment the same number of equipment that's been used, for the past 20 plus years. Dust control, I think fugitive dust within the mine would probably be the biggest thing. And also just keeping track of like large stockpiles and things like that, especially during high wind days, which we've had quite a lot of. And then one thing would be important for this pit in particular, because we've noted it in the past and asked for it to be addressed, is just removing track dust and mud from County Road 23 where they enter. Odors, I think all I'll say is it's across the street from the landfill. Just leave it at that. They're not really expecting any noise, just because, again, there's not going to be a batch plant. They haven't had any complaints from their existing mining activities. There's not a whole lot of residential residences out there. So really no anticipated impacts there. For transportation, I think this is always important to really highlight, is they're operating 26 trucks that are taking 4 to 5 trips a day. So we got 260 truck trips per day from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Not really consistent at all. So this isn't like an everyday thing that's happening, but that's the potential to happen. And then also their employee vehicle trips as well. So looking at about 380 daily trips. And with that, they're not looking, they did ask, our county engineer, we asked about if there need to be like a traffic impact assessment or anything like that, especially just on a county road. And a lot of these trucks are going up to Highway 10. They're making a left-hand turn at that uncontrolled intersection. Didn't seem to be an issue just because the frequency of truck traffic is not anticipated to increase at all. The last thing is cumulative impacts, and that's looking at the environmental impact of a project just from its incremental effects, so as well as the effects of other projects in the area. There's 3 other pits in the area, or 2 other pits in the area, and then the landfill. Pretty similar types of land use. And so if other projects come up, I think it would be important to evaluate that project. Just because too, it's a goal and an objective in our comprehensive plan. When we're looking at new mines, new gravel mines, to also consider what the impacts would be relative to the surrounding land use, and if there are other mines in the area, and what a new mine would add to that. So we did get a comment letter from the DNR. We didn't receive any comments from Hawley Township, and we did not receive any individual public comment. The main takeaways from the DNR was loggerhead shrike nesting season. It's a state endangered species. They're more common in like Arizona, or in the Southwest, but they make their way up here too. And so just making sure that no trees are cut down, essentially. They like shrubs. It's a bird that essentially what it does is it'll catch like mice and it will impale them on like thorny shrubs. And that's how it takes them out. So they need shrubs. There really aren't any shrubs in the project area because it's all cropland. Water appropriations, which I had touched on, just making sure that if they're over basically moving through or discharging 10,000 gallons a day or more, or 1 million gallons a year, they would likely need that water appropriations permit. And that's something that can be addressed as part of the interim use permit as well. And then just other impacts, dust, which we've talked about, any vertical walls, which I think they're just concerned about, like animals getting trapped in the floor of the mine. And the way that the mine's set up right now, there are escape routes for animals. And then reclamation, just ensuring that once the mining is complete and the pit is exhausted of material, that it doesn't become like a breeding grounds for invasive species, Canada thistle, and all that good stuff. So based on the EAW, the staff recommendation would be to issue a negative declaration of need. I just kind of summarized we did put together findings of fact, but it's 35 pages long. So probably not going to read through all of that. And I trust that you all had a chance to look over that. Just really what we're doing is acknowledging that we have jurisdiction over the review process. It met all regulatory requirements. No significant environmental impacts were identified. There are mitigation measures in place to address environmental concerns, and because of that, a environmental impact statement would not be required for this project. Before I yield for any questions, one thing I do want to state too is what we've done in the past with these EAWs is just had the Planning Commission pass a resolution, essentially stating either there is declaring a no need for an EIS or there is a need. And the Planning Commission in the past couple of years is 1 for 1 on that. You've declared it no need for one, and you've declared a positive need for another project. The resolution that I've drafted is essentially assuming that you would issue a negative declaration of need just based off of the findings, effect, and conclusion. So with that, is there any questions for me at all?
I guess I've got just a couple small questions. You said right now the site is bermed with topsoil, partly for visual impact and maybe for some outflow of sediment. Are those stabilized? Are they seeded, those topsoil berms, or are they just open topsoil that would be a breeding ground for invasive species? They'd be a source of sediment discharge from the site, I guess. Or is it the assumption that everything will drain onto the site?
Sure. I think they are stabilized. Last time we were out there, they did have vegetation on them, so, yep.
Is there an elevation of water? We've got, 2 days of rain coming in here. Is there an elevation of water where there's concern where there would be migration of sediment off of the site?
In this particular pit, just based off of the topography, I would say no.
Then my last question, I guess, would be, with all that stipulated, the actual conformance to their permit, that's the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency? Is that their jurisdiction to actually enforce that? We are strictly just saying whether or not we need the additional EIS.
Yeah, so how it would go for this process is you determine if an EIS is needed or not, and then likely next month the applicant would apply for a interim use permit for this expansion.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Josh. Paul?
Follow up to that. So when the next month's meeting, at that point, or April meeting next month on the interviews, is that when you put scrutiny on or a timetable on it, you're talking something for another?
Commissioner, can you please use your microphone?
All right, thank you. Not used to that. Anyway, is there a time frame that they need to move on with this expansion? I mean, their intent is there, but are there limitations of years that, or does it just go on for a 20-year period, no matter when they start it? You understand what I mean?
Yeah, that would be a condition that would be placed on the interim use permit. I mean, typically for mines, it's been either 10 or 15 years is kind of how, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And the reason I ask the question is the ebbs and flows of, or demand on the
Yep.
product, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, it's really market dependent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And last one, I really appreciate the mines that I see that have been reclaimed, and the ones I'm mostly aware of, you know, a top-notch job, really good job. Do you know, it was interesting to hear the clockwise motion and all that type of thing. Is there a period of time that they leave that open for the chance? I'm just saying there's a type of aggregate that's in there, they might want to come back for it. You understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, so a lot of times what mines will do is they'll try to mine it out, and then they'll have an area where they can stage their product. So it's all sorted,
Okay.
Depending on by what type of material it is and what specs that it would meet.
Okay.
And so, you know, in an ideal world, that's how it would be organized. So it would be mined,
Yeah.
and then it would be stockpiled for. Yep.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Mr. Chair and Matt, so tonight we're just focusing on if we want to, if we were going to require an impact statement or just be satisfied with, that's our action tonight?
Yep.
And then whatever conditions they previously had would follow the expansion, correct?
Yeah, my recommendation would be, when they come forth with an application for an interim use permit, we would use this environmental assessment worksheet as kind of a guide for the development of conditions. So the water appropriations permit from the DNR could be a condition, controlling fugitive dust within the mine, and then also maybe maintaining County Road 23 where they access it, keeping that clean, whether they're sweeping or not. Those are things that have been identified in this environmental assessment worksheet that can be leveraged as conditions in the permit.
So we will be visiting this to some degree in the future, obviously.
Yes.
And to go along with Josh's question, I think I read in here, once they reclaim, they got roughly 30 days to get it all seeded in. If I remember,
That's the suggestion from the DNR, yeah.
that's theirs, okay.
Yeah.
And then it talked about, not supposed to remove trees or shrubs from April to July, and if they are, they're supposed to verify that the loggerhead strike is. So there is some conditions they do have to continue following, but if we see fit, we might implement something else too. But as of now, we're just deciding to EIS or not.
Yep, correct.
That's the way I understood it.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments or concerns? After reading through this at length and visiting with Matt, and I personally feel that this EAW more than satisfies the concerns that an EIS is not. I agree with staff that it is not. I wouldn't require it. And I would, and now looking for a motion to, as you said, negatively affirm.
Yeah, it would be a motion to pass Planning Commission Resolution 2025-1 that supports the approval of the findings of facts and conclusions and negative declaration on the need for an environmental impact statement for the Asplin Equity Pit expansion project in Hawley Township.
I so move.
A motion by Josh to approve.
Second, Steichen.
Motion seconded by Dave. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The EIS is sufficient. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so next what will happen is we'll inform the project proposer and let them know that the need to get their interim use permit application in. And then also we would need to publish basically the decision with the Minnesota State Environmental Quality Board, which we'll do. I think the deadline for publication is today, so since we can't make that, we'll have to wait a week.
Okay. Update of planning and zoning violations.
I think the biggest update being is we resolved 2 of the home occupation ones that were on there this month and then in March. And then there were 3 new gravel pit violations, so we're up to 14. Again, mainly relating to not having the appropriate state permits, some setback, I think 1 being over acreage potentially. And so working to resolve those. And Erica, not to put you on the spot, but of those 14, how many operators would you say, or pits? Do you have an idea?
Like 6.
6? Yeah, so it's not 14 separate pits, it's, some have multiple.
And the one that has 4 acres over, he's actively trying to reclaim those extra 4 acres.
Oh, nice to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any comments or questions regarding violations?
On those violations, they all understand they're in violation, and they all understand they're gonna get it taken care of, and hopefully they do. I mean, you're good about following up on those things, so.
Correct. Yep. I think it's, Mr. Chair and Mr. Steichen, it's one of those things too where if it keeps going on and we have to keep pushing on the same violation, or if it's the same violation and it's just repeated, that's when we get to the conversation where we're gonna likely have to maybe bring your permit to the planning commission for a revocation hearing.
Thank you. Any unfinished business?
No unfinished business, Mr. Chair.
New business?
The only new business that I have is, I know you all recommended the adoption of the 2025 Clay County Development and Subdivision Ordinance, and looking to bring that to, we brought it to back to the consultant just to do some formatting tweaks to it. Had to change the chapter structure a bit in order for it to fit into our overall county code, which is online. And it was recently, our county code was recently recodified online. And so that covers a wide variety. It's all of the ordinances in the county. And so the land development ordinance is just one section of that. And so we did have to do some reformatting of the chapters so it would fit into that system neatly. So we've done that, and that's really the only major change that's taken place since you've seen it or recommended it. And so I'm looking to bring that to the board on Tuesday, June 3rd at 9:15 a.m. Oh, we'll have a little more than 15. Unless you want me to talk fast. Unless it's so great that don't need to talk about it. So, and that's all I have.
Okay. Anyone else have any points or anything that needs to be brought up? Hearing none, I'd like to point out that the June meeting will be the 24th. It'll be the fourth Tuesday, not the third. So if you want to put that on your literal calendars, or like I have to.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the third Tuesday of the month in June every year is when the County Board of Equalization meets. So they meet in the evening, 6 p.m.
Okay, hearing nothing else, look for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion by Brad,
Second.
second by Kurt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.